Perhaps you had the experience of being read a Bible story about Jonah and the whale. Or perhaps you yourself read it to your own children. But in the story we know that Jonah is running away from God, who's been calling him to a task. And as a result, he spends 40 days and 40 nights in the belly of a whale. That term, belly of the whale, has come to mean that any of that time that we feel our souls being troubled and that we don't seem to understand our relationship with God. And finally, after having that experience of being in the belly of the whale for that long period of time, Jonah comes to the realization he is going to have to listen to what God is calling him to be and to do. The scriptures today pick up the rest of that story. You see, Jonah was afraid of going to Nineveh. He didn't want to have to tell them that their city was going to be destroyed because he feared they would kill him. But finally, accepting what it was that he was called to do, he goes forth into the city, and miraculously, the word of God takes root in those that heard him proclaim it. And they turned from their evil ways, did penance, if you will, turned their lives around, and their city was spared. That same message applies to you and to me today. Over the past several years, it's made no sense to me why I'm suddenly troubled with detached retinas or have been struck with cancer. I'm sure I'm not the only person in the world that when they have health issues says to themselves, why me, God? Or perhaps those that are unemployed, homeless, family issues, relationship issues. We keep wondering, why me? Sometimes we try to lay it at something we've done or that try to understand God's will. But in reality, life is life. And there is always something we have to learn from the situations that we experience in life. But what you and I as Christians are called upon to do is to apply the gospel message to our life situations. You heard Paul tell us that we have to change things up because the world is going to pass away. So doing things the way we've always done them doesn't necessarily work anymore. So change things up, shake up our lives, take a different outlook. And instead of wondering, why me, oh God, perhaps, what can I learn from this, Lord? And what do I need to change in order to be happier in this life, in order to attain the joys of the next? It's a weighty question for Christians. Some people are of the opinion that, oh, all I have to do is accept the Lord, and that's true. There's no cost to the gift of faith. There's no cost to the gift of salvation. But what God then turns around and says to you is, now prove that you're a follower. What actions are you going to take? You heard in the gospel, Simon, known as Peter today, and Andrew left their livelihoods behind in order to follow the Lord. Same thing occurs with James and with John. They leave their father and the hired men in the boat, and they too go after the Lord. And then they relied on the community of faith around them to support them and Jesus as they journeyed. Perhaps you and I don't have the wherewithal to leave behind our lives and go forth to do the Lord's will in the community. But we certainly have the ability, no matter where we find ourselves, in our homes, in our place of business, among our friends, in the neighborhood, of witnessing God's love in our lives and letting others know how God sustains us through our troubles. Don't let being in the belly of the whale get you down. Look instead to the joys of following the call of Christ and living a life of love and of service to all people.